Well, good afternoon, Lake Norman, and welcome to Town Talk. We're coming to you live from WSIC, the Real Talk Studio, nestled on the banks of beautiful Lake Norman, streaming worldwide from Florence, Italy to Goose Creek, South Carolina. I'm your host, Bill Russell, president of Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, the largest chamber of commerce in the Charlotte region. This is a program where we discuss topics that are impacting your family, your friends, your neighbors, your business, from my neighborhood to yours. My guests today are Eric Boruff. He is the music director and president of the board of directors for the Cornelius Youth Orchestra. And Lara Ingram, she's the executive director of Feed North Carolina. But first, I want to introduce a longtime friend of mine and a former board member of the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, past public policy chair, Jason Colvin with State Farm. Jason is also the assistant coach and a sponsor of a Little League baseball team here in Huntersville. And Jason, I went to the town board meeting this past Monday night, and we didn't recognize one state champion. We recognized two state champions and Little League baseball. Tell us a little bit about what we did Monday night at Town Hall.
Yeah, it looked a little bit different at Town Hall, didn't it?
It looked a lot different.
Yeah. What we recognized was Lake Norman Little League happens to be the largest Little League in the state of North Carolina. Between softball and baseball players, there's about 1,500 plus kids who play every spring, and there's a little bit less that play every fall. But the Little League season is 10 to 12 games during the regular season, and it culminates into an all-star season. And during that all-star season, they have a district tournament, and if you're lucky enough to win that, you go on to a state tournament. So there's about 6 age groups from 8U, which means 8 years old or under, all the way up to 12 years old and under, and the 9 and under, and then also the 10 and under Lake Norman Little League teams, which are comprised of kids from Cornelius, Davidson, Huntersville, North Charlotte area, actually won their respective state tournaments this past spring, which was fantastic, and we really appreciate Huntersville taking the time to recognize the two teams, because we depend a lot on Huntersville and Cornelius fields for both practice and playing the games for.
And I think that's one of the things that you were there the other night, is not only to bring recognition to the kids. By the way, how many kids were there the other? That's probably not all of them, but how many kids were there?
So each team is comprised of 13 players, or 12 to 13 players. So you actually saw 25 players there the other night.
Wow, that was a lot. And they were excited. And I think the thing that impressed me was how mannerly they were in Town Hall, because I'm not sure at the age of 8, 9, and 10 that I was that disciplined as your baseball team.
They perform at a high level, and they're very respectful, great kids in that. But it all starts at home with the great parents that we have as part of the team.
And I think really one of the things you wanted to do was bring recognition to the lack of resources I think we have in the area in terms of ball fields.
Well, you drive around, you see a lot of different ball fields from in Huntersville. You got North Mech, you got the Athletic Park in Huntersville, and Cornelius you have Torrance Chapel Park, you got the Westmoreland Athletic Park. Even though it seems like there's a lot of ball fields around here, based on just the sheer size of people, especially moving here, and because this is a great place to live, right? So great schools and everything. So you got all these kids, but Lake Norman Little League actually has to turn down or turn away some people because there's not enough fields for them to practice and play on to be able to adequately have the season. So one of the things that we've brought to the attention of both Cornelius and Huntersville is that there is a need for additional fields. And then there's also a great opportunity in that where they do have these state tournaments, primarily in Wilson, North Carolina, Greenville, North Carolina, and actually fairly close, downtown Charlotte at Randolph Park, which is Myers Park Little League. They have these what I call stadium fields. They look very nice. They're miniature versions of a major league field, and they can hold anywhere from 500 to 600 people. And they can be used for multi-purpose, not only for these ball games where they host these district and state tournaments, and people come in from all across the state and southeast region. But these people are coming, they're staying in hotel rooms, they're going out to eat at different places.
Big business.
Big business. And so, there's a great opportunity for the Lake Norman area, especially for one of these towns. And I know that Lake Norman Little League is all about looking to partner with one as far as capital, or raising capital to help build one of these type of stadiums to make it more of like think of it as a baseball destination, right? To go along with the great Lake Norman Little League program that we already have. Because nothing against Wilson, North Carolina, but have you been to Wilson, North Carolina?
I've been to Wilson, but it's been a while.
They just don't quite have as much in Wilson, North Carolina as they do here in the Lake Norman region. And then you add Charlotte on top of that. What a great opportunity this would be for our region.
Jason, one of the things that a former mayor in Rock Hill, Betty Jo Ray, I don't know if you know that name, but Betty Jo Ray was one of I think the very first female mayor for Rock Hill. But back in the early 80s, she had a vision of taking some prime real estate on Cherry Road. You're familiar with Cherry Road, Eric. And putting a park there. And she built all of these baseball fields. And they actually talked about Betty Jo Fay's folly. What is she doing taking this high dollar real estate? And then when I was president of the United States JCs, I traveled to 47 states. And I would go to some of the states like Oregon and Kansas, and they would say, where are you from? I'd say Rock Hill, South Carolina. I'd say, I've been to Rock Hill. And you've been to Rock Hill? I mean, what would bring you there? And they said, played softball there or played baseball. Some of the championships were held there. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, I didn't really realize that people from across the country would come to Rock Hill, South Carolina to play in some of our baseball parks. And so, yeah, tremendous facilities and tremendous opportunity.
Absolutely. You look at what we already have here in the area, what they've been able to do with all the soccer fields in Huntersville and Cornelius with the turf that they've put down right there at the fields right there beside Bradley Middle School at Bailey Road Park. And then also Bradford Park. They bring in these national soccer tournaments. They would be able to do the same with a first-class facility and from a baseball perspective as well.
Sure, that's huge. Travel and tourism is huge to our economic development. Jason, I want to ask you, obviously the Little League baseball season is wrapping up. When does it start?
So there's actually 2 seasons. There's a spring season, which starts usually towards the end of February, and the regular season runs through the end of May, and then All-Star season starts in June and runs through, can be end of July if you make it all the way through the state tournament. The fall season starts in August and runs through the end of October.
I know you were an assistant coach and a sponsor of the team. I don't know a whole lot about that personal background of yours. Did you play Little League baseball? Did you play baseball?
Yes, I was a Tri-C baseball player back in Washington, West Virginia.
Okay. And I guess you've heard we got the batting challenge that Justin Kazepis and I have with we're going to have a little competition at DBAT on September 28th, high noon, where the loser, or actually the runner-up, is going to wash dishes at the Angels and Sparrows Soup Kitchen. And, of course, there is no losers in community service. Absolutely no losers.
None, but that will be fun to watch.
Jason, I want to thank you so much for all that you're doing and what you did with the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce in your 6 years on the board of directors and with junior leadership Lake Norman. We're going to be taking a break. We're going to stay live with our digital family. For those of you listening, please come back and listen to Town Talk on WSIC. We're good? Okay. Thank you so very much. Jason
appreciate that.
served, excuse me?
Greatly appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Jason served 6 years on my board of directors. He was also my public policy chair and orchestrated and emceed some of those candidate debates that we had. So thank you so very much, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely.
My producer in there, Bill Blakely, is taking care of me. Bill, I was sharing a little while ago that I went out for my batting practice yesterday at DBAT, got out there, and some of those balls coming at me at 60 miles an hour. Today, I'm feeling it a little bit, even 50. I was telling Eric, it was like the Bionic Man, only I didn't connect like the Bionic Man. It was like I was coming around in slow motion on those balls. So Justin and I had a little conversation a little while ago, and I think we're going to switch to softball. So maybe some fast pitch softball. Yeah, and with a 10-foot arch, and so maybe we can do it that way because it was difficult yesterday. The Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, we have our Business Expo coming up Tuesday, October the 10th, 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's going to be at the Huntersville Recreation Center. We have about 20 or 25 booths left. You need to register if you're going to be in it by next Friday, because after that, if we do have booths available, you can possibly still get a booth, but that's going to be the cutoff for being able to have signage on your booth. So you'd have to definitely bring your own banner. But Tuesday, October the 10th, 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock at the Huntersville Recreation Center. I mentioned a little while ago candidate forums with Justin Kazepis. He is actually going to be our MC. That's something that Jason did for us for many years. On Thursday, October the 12th, we're going to have the Cornelius candidate forum. We have 2 people running for town mayor. We have 10 people running for town board, and that's going to be 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock at the Cornelius Town Hall. On Tuesday, October 17th and 19th, we're going to have the Huntersville candidate forums. We got so many people running. You're down there at Huntersville. Yep. We actually have 16 candidates for town board and 3 people for mayor. We're fixing to go back in 10 seconds to our live. Thank the digital audience for being with us.
Update from the WSIC Weather Center.
Call now to speak with Lake Norman Chamber President Bill Russell at 844-STUDIO-4. It's Town Talk on WSIC.
Welcome back to Town Talk. I'm your host, Bill Russell. And we just heard from Jason Colvin. He was in here talking about some Little League. It was really exciting going to the town board the other night, having 2 state championship Little League baseball teams from your town. So, and Eric, you're from Huntersville as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was really, really cool. Bill Blakely is our producer. He is on the boards, and this morning I was listening to a discussion that they were having on Good Morning Lake Norman, where they talked about capital punishment. Justin was talking about capital punishment, and he said the current South Carolina law requires that either you execute inmates by electric chair, or they can choose lethal injection or firing squad. That's what Justin was talking about this morning, right, Bill? Actually, Justin didn't get it right. There is a 4th manner. If you are a South Carolina Gamecock, they actually strap you down to a chair, and you have to listen to the Clemson Tiger fight song, the Tiger Rag, over and over and over. And most people prefer the bullet. So anyway, there is a 4th way in South Carolina for that. And, and I also heard Joe Vagnone this morning. I couldn't get in. He was talking about his love of cigars. I know he's still giving you a lot of grief over his bumper music. Bill, I really do. I think what you need to do, and don't tell Joe that you're going to do it, but next Monday, line up the Starland Vocal Band and do a little afternoon delight for Joe.
I gotcha.
And see his reaction.
Classic.
So no AC/DC, a little bit of Starland Vocal Band.
I'm trying to even picture his face right there, and I'm telling you that worth it.
He will actually say, "Willem, you're fired."
Exactly.
I have Eric Boruff. He is the music director, president of the board of directors for the Cornelius Youth Orchestra, and Lara Ingram, the executive director of Feed North Carolina. Laura, I want to start with you. I know what Feed North Carolina does, but for those listeners from Huntersville to Statesville that may be unfamiliar with Feed North Carolina, what is FeedNC?
So we focus on feeding, obviously, in our community, serve multiple counties, not just Iredell County, which some people think. We do serve North Mech as well, so Cornelius, Huntersville, and Davidson, and focus on hot meals. We also focus on groceries for families in our community and education. So one of the things that's a recent ad for us is workforce development, and we train people in the culinary services industry and in warehouse development. We actually just started a new class yesterday, and we have 16 people who started learning in our 3-month program yesterday, and they'll finish and have jobs, which is pretty exciting in our community.
You just moved into a new facility. We just had the ribbon cutting a couple of months ago. Share a little bit about the facility, because it is state of the art, beautiful facility, nice kitchen. Share a little bit about where you're at and the facility.
Sure. So we started a capital campaign in 2021. We just had completely outgrown our space in downtown Mooresville. And the demand was increasing by 50% year over year for services. So we just couldn't fit everybody in the space that we had. And held a campaign, raised $7 million for that campaign, and we're able to construct this new building. It's 8.5 acres, which we were pretty excited about. We were kind of landlocked downtown and didn't have much dirt, and we really knew that we needed to grow food because things that you grow are healthier than things that are coming from grocery stores a lot of times. And so we were able to include a large dining room where we can serve 200 people at a time in the dining room during the week. That space can also be rented, which was exciting. I have a board of directors who, was making sure that we could operate long term, and having some revenue was one way to do that. We also have a teaching kitchen, so the people that are in our program can learn in this kitchen. They used to have to sort of cohabitate with volunteers as we were cooking all day, so now they have a teaching kitchen. And then we also have a very nice size warehouse, which is super exciting. So we really had no warehouse in the other building, and we weren't really able to manage inventory the way we should. A lot of times food had to go out quicker than it should have because we just didn't have anywhere to store it. So now we feel like we can say yes. We sometimes have 18-wheelers call us and say, I tried to drop off something to Walmart and they couldn't take it. And we had to say no to things like that in the past. So now we're excited that if you can eat it, we will take it. And we always say yes when people have something to offer.
And Eric, you were familiar with FeedNC, right?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Impressive operation. I think you actually also grow stuff there, right?
We do. We have an acre garden. The Dale Jr. Foundation partnered with us and named it Mimi's Garden. So Mimi is what the grandbabies called their grandmother before she passed away, Dale Jr. and Kelly's mother. And so she loved to garden. She loved having her grandchildren out in the garden with her. So they named that spot, and we have beautiful memory to her with sunflowers. She liked sunflowers and butterflies, and so there's a lot of really cool memory to her in that space, and an acre of edible food that we can put in our kitchen and in our grocery. As you all know, if you've been to the store anytime recently, fresh food is expensive. So it's the hardest thing to buy is produce, and it doesn't last very long. So what you get as donations are typically shelf-stable canned goods, dry goods, which is also helpful. But we're trying to help people make healthy choices, and that way they don't have long-term chronic illnesses. So we're growing fruits and vegetables, putting fruit trees in the ground, and things that hopefully will feed our community for decades after, we're all retired and on a beach somewhere. People will still be eating what is in that garden.
Laura, I think you spoke about the geographic area you serve, but specifically, what individuals can reach out to you for assistance?
So we do serve, there's multiple counties, but Iredell, Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, and then Rowan. There are certain zip codes in those. It's about 11 zip codes. So if somebody's not certain, they can call us and ask specifically. But a person just has to fall at 200% of poverty or below, which is a lot of working folks in our community. So they really can be a two-income household. We serve all kinds of people that are hard-working community members. And all they have to do is go on the website, and we have an online application, so they don't even have to drive to us. They can do it online, and then we can give them a call and talk to them about what their needs are. And then people are able to shop in the grocery. They can eat every day, Monday through Friday, with us, but they can shop in the grocery once a week. And people are typically taking about $200 worth of groceries every week when they leave the grocery store. So anybody who needs help actually can reach out to us. And even if they don't qualify for our services, we'll find them help.
Laura, Jason was just talking about how this is a great place to live, to work, to visit. But there sometimes is a misconception that everybody up here is wealthy and influential and just doing great. There are pockets of poverty, no matter whether it's in Statesville, Huntersville, Eric, where we live. Yeah. There are families that are struggling. There are people who are literally living out of their cars. Speak to that issue, because, again, there's so many people that think we're just a very affluent community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be misunderstood, certainly, I think. And we do have a lot of people with wonderful resources in this community. So I always say I'm super thankful, actually, that we have those folks too, because they're incredibly generous. We have wonderful people in this community who choose to support nonprofits as opposed to doing something else with their resources. So I have a lot of respect for those people as well. But we do have kind of a beautiful marriage in this area where we have people in need and then we have people who are willing to give, which I feel blessed for that. We could be in an area where everyone was struggling and then we would all struggle together, which would be difficult. So we definitely have families that are working very hard. They are making minimum wage. They're making $12 or $13 an hour. The cost of rent in this area, as we all know, one-bedroom apartment typically is $1,000 a month. And so the math just simply doesn't add up. Even if you're working part-time or full-time, they can't afford the rent and then the food and the medication and the needs of their children and everything else. So we do have a lot of families, and especially as costs have gone up. You know, we all know the cost of food is higher. A lot of things are higher at this point, and wages have gone up some, but not consistent with the cost of things. So we've actually seen the needs since January. Needs have gone up week over week since January, the amount of families applying for services. We usually have about 75 new families apply a week for our services.
You know, over the course of 30 years here at the Lake Norman Chamber, actually 28, but closing in on 30, I've served on the board of the Eddie Jenkins Center, Habitat for Humanity, United Way. I haven't served on the board of Angels and Sparrows, but I've been very involved with them. Tell me about the collaboration you might have, because I think you do work closely with the Eddie Jenkins Center.
We do. We actually work closely with all those people that you just mentioned. And Jessica at Angels is one of my favorite humans in the world. She's amazing and quite good at what she does and has a beautiful vision for that place, you know, in the future as well. So, you know, we do bounce ideas off of each other. I think all the nonprofits really in the area work together. We know we're serving some of the same people, and then we're definitely serving individuals as well that are not duplicative at all. And we have different missions. You know, Angels does a great job with their food during the day. They're feeding different people than we are during the day. And then she started in on the tutoring program in the afternoons and kind of had a specific vision of which way she wanted to go. So we do communicate a lot. We make referrals back and forth. A family might wind up in our dining room and then tell us that they live in Huntersville, and there's no point for them, you know, to come all the way to us if they don't know that Angels and Sparrows exist. So we make referrals back and forth. We try very hard not to duplicate a service that already exists in this community. That doesn't make any sense. So we all kind of try to form our strategic plan and then go in a direction that makes sense individually.
We're going to talk about the support when we come back a little bit about both organizations. And Erica, we're going to get over to you specifically. But I want to ask, what is the biggest challenge that FeedNC is looking at? What's the biggest challenge facing you?
I'd say probably right now it's having adequate volunteers that we need every day. So we have a very small paid staff. We try to be efficient with what we do, and we need about 70 to 75 volunteers in the building a day. It's an extensive operation to have the help that we need. And then a lot of those volunteers are doing manual labor. So that can be hard to find. We've gone to gyms and things like that, specifically looking for folks who can lift and heavy boxes. And so that's probably our greatest need, is people who are capable of doing some manual labor in the building.
And if somebody wanted to volunteer, website is?
FeedNC.org.
FeedNC.org. So, Eric, when we come back, we're going to really talk about the Cornelius Youth Orchestra and talk about some of the things that you're doing. For our digital audience, stay with us. We're going to be talking about some Chamber of Commerce activities. For you who are listening to us live on the radio, we'll be back in just a few minutes. So please stay with us on Town Talk right here on WSIC. Are you familiar with the other organizations I mentioned? Have you had any interaction with Ada Jenkins Center?
Yes, we actually have done a community service project with our kids. We try to get our kids out in the community, not just doing music, but also community service. And last Christmas, we actually had them put Christmas baskets and actually Christmas stockings. We had them stuffed with goodies and stuff and dropped them off at Ada Jenkins, and that was a lot of fun.
Any involvement with Angels and Sparrows?
Yes, we actually did a Valentine's Day project with them this past February, and we had the kids put together little Valentines, write notes, and we had them delivered to the patrons there at the Angels and Sparrows.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
A couple of Chamber of Commerce activities. We have a business after hours next Thursday. That's going to be the 28th. Business after hours at United Community Bank. That's at 19510 Jeton Road here in Cornelius. So if you're somebody who is interested in the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, come out, see what we do. Have you been to any of our networking events, Lara? Eric?
I have, yes, and very much enjoy them. Meet new people every time I go.
What is the big benefit for you going to any networking event?
Well, we certainly make contact with businesses. We have a lot of sponsorship opportunities with businesses. Businesses are doing an amazing job these days of trying to give back and having a specific community focus. So a lot of times we make contacts with large and small businesses.
I feel like the role of nonprofits, it seems like we are facilitators. You mentioned, I like what you said about how there are people that are well-to-do in the area and also people that are in need. And I feel like as nonprofits, one of the things we all share in common is we're just connecting those people, you know?
And we've got it. Speaking of that, we've got our nonprofit roundtable. I know that's coming up either in October or November. We're actually going to take it on the road to Morrisville, so we're going to go to Welcome Home Veterans, Richard's Coffee Shop, and that's going to be the next nonprofit roundtable. Have you been able to attend one of those?
I have yet to, but one of my team has. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know we always have FeedNC there.
Bonnie, Bonnie loves to be in the community. I mean, that's her role is development. So I do more day-to-day operational stuff, and Bonnie gets to spend a lot of time in the community, which is nice.
Eric, we actually started that about, I guess it's almost been 8 to 10 years ago. I was invited to attend 3 gala events on the same weekend. So you had one on a Friday night, 2 on a Saturday night, and I'm going like, I can't do that. And what we had was our nonprofits usurping each other if you're having your huge fundraisers at the same time. So we brought everybody together, and what we do is we go around the room. We typically have about 30 or 35 nonprofits, and either the execs or volunteer or sometimes the board chair. And they will say in like 1 minute, because if we go longer than that, we'll be there for a long time with 35 people. Yeah. But in 1 minute, what does your organization do? And then we go back around the room and say, what's going on? So we're going to, digital family, stay with us. We're going back live in just a second.
Now, more Town Talk with Lake Norman Chamber President Bill Russell on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to Town Talk. I'm Bill Russell, your host. Today I have Eric Boruff. He is the music director and president of board of directors for the Cornelius Youth Orchestra, and Lara Ingram, executive director of FeedNC. And we just talked to Lara, and I think you guys was it last year? No, 2 years ago. You were like the Duke Citizenship Award.
Yes.
Wow. Duke Citizenship Award, the highest award we give to an individual or a nonprofit or a business for the impact they're making. And
incredible.
FeedNC was recognized, I guess that was 2021.
It was,
but,
in the heart of the COVID.
Right.
Fun.
Right
so
during
much
the
fun.
heart of the COVID, but we really appreciate that, what FeedNC does. And before we get to you, Eric, we actually had a rebranding too. Eric, you were just talking about that Eric knew something else. Tell me about the rebranding real quickly.
Yeah, so we were Morrisville Soup Kitchen. A lot of people understand that, some people don't. But we went around and talked to our community in 2020 and just learned that we were not serving that many homeless folks at this time. So it used to be homeless people that would go to a soup kitchen, and there's some negative connotations associated with a soup kitchen and going there for help. And most of our people have jobs. So we rebranded and learned that people needed groceries for their families, they needed education, they needed better jobs. And so we really focused on the things that the people we serve, and our people are working poor in our community.
And Angels and Sparrows changed it to the community kitchen, so it's the community kitchen, not the soup kitchen. So got to be careful about that. Eric, we were talking on the phone a couple of weeks ago when you agreed to do my show. We talked about the Cornelius Youth Orchestra, and I kept saying Cornelius, and you were going like, no, we're much bigger than that.
Absolutely.
Talk about what is the Cornelius Youth Orchestra?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I can't wait to share our organization with your listeners here in the Lake Norman community. I am a transplant and I have fallen in love with the Lake Norman community myself. The Cornelius Youth Orchestras is a nonprofit serving the community youth here in the area and with a dual mission statement. Our goal is to provide music education and performing opportunities for community youth, as well as be a community arts ensemble and provide live music and concerts for the community at large. And we have seen incredible growth just this past year. From last season to this, we've actually more than doubled our enrollment. So we are looking forward to our exciting season ahead. You mentioned our service area. We have Cornelius in the name. We're proud to have Cornelius in the name, but we also serve and we pull in students and audience from a demographic of 5 different contiguous counties in the local area. So we have Rowan, Cabarrus, we have Mecklenburg, Lincoln, and I believe Gaston as well.
And talk about the ages. What age range?
Absolutely. So initially, when I came on with my position to the organization in January of 2019, it was primarily a middle school group. And we have expanded that out into all of the broad offerings that we have from elementary age all the way up until pre-college, so graduation for high schoolers.
And when do you have these performances?
We have an increasing number of performances. So this past season, we grew from having 4 different concerts a year to 17 different performances in the community. So our goal, as I said, we serve a dual mission statement. We want to provide education for the kids from our fantastic world-class artistic faculty, but we also want to get our kids performing. They want to perform. That's why they're there with us and a part of our youth orchestra. This coming season, we have, I believe, 5 different concerts already on the calendar on top of the upcoming community engagement events, and that's just the calendar that's been confirmed into December 1st. So our season runs until the end of May. So we're looking to get more concerts and more events on the schedule, and we'll put out more information about that as we have it.
So I am a huge Charlotte orchestra. I love to go to the Charlotte Symphony. I love to go to that. How is this differing from, say, is it a junior version of, say, the Charlotte Symphony?
Well, I would be honored to call it a junior version of the Charlotte Symphony. My colleagues that are on our team, our artistic faculty, are primarily members of the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra. And I like to compare this as I talk to people to share how big of a deal this is. This would be like somebody that plays with the Atlanta Braves coming in and coaching Little League.
Oh, yeah.
This is an opportunity for our community youth to have world-class instruction on day 1 on their instrument. It doesn't matter what instrument you play, as long as it's in the orchestral family, we take you. So our faculty are from the Charlotte Symphony primarily. Such a fantastic group, but they make the trek up here to Lake Norman and work with our kids, and we could not be happier to have them.
And again, how does this vary from, say, the Huff High School Band or one of the bands that we have here?
That's a fantastic question. So I'll clear up some verbiage here, some music lingo. So a lot of times in the school system, you have band, which is primarily woodwind and brass instruments, and then you would have orchestra for some of the schools, though the area in North Carolina is underserved when it comes to strings, but orchestra would be referenced as strings only. We are a full orchestra, and so what that means is that we actually combine everybody. So we have the strings, we have the brass, the woodwinds, and percussion. So it's a happy musical mosaic of sound, and we get to bring everybody in. Now, how do we differ from local high schools and middle school bands? Well, what we're doing is we're pulling in students that are motivated, driven, really excited about playing their instrument, and we're taking the cream of the crop from each of those schools and bringing them together and putting them in ensemble with their peers that are equally motivated. And then when you synergize that with connecting them with the faculty that we have, I mean, it's just incredible output.
Eric, you know, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but a young lady that I really enjoy listening to is Lucia Macarelli. Probably just butchered that, violinist.
No, you're fine.
And I just love the violin. The older I get, I know it used to be heavy guitar. You know, it used to be like the Rolling Stones and Fleetwood Mac, and that. But now, the older I get, the more I'm going more classical. But I love listening to violin. This isn't just what you do for a living. You actually you teach violin, right?
Absolutely.
Tell me about.
I am a violinist professionally, and my day job per se is actually I do have a violin lesson studio. We serve the Lake Norman region, but we also have locations down in South Charlotte, in Weddington, and also in Fort Mill in South Carolina.
And when did you start playing the violin?
I started playing the violin, and it's a great story that we probably don't have time for, but I started playing the violin from a violin that was salvaged from the school dumpster when I was 9 years old. It was given to me as I was going away from school. They were cleaning out lost and found. It got thrown in the dumpster. A school admin saw that I was there, and she said, "That kid wants to play. I remember that." And they went and got it from the dumpster and gave it to me. And to my parents' chagrin, initially, they were like, "You came home from school with what?" And I started practicing, and the rest is history. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been quite the journey.
You play any other instruments?
I do play the piano. I did also, just for pedagogical reasons, play other instruments as well, just to learn how to learn the basics of each one. But primarily, I just play the violin.
Laura, do you play any musical instruments?
I do not.
Okay.
I actually do not sing either. I always wanted to sing. It was something I was really wanted to be good at, and I did try, but I was not that good at it, so it's not on my list of skills for sure.
Is there a particular type of music or an instrument you like the most? Because I mean, I was just sharing. I love the violin. I've always loved the flute. I love the piano. Those are my probably top three instruments. Do you have something that you just really enjoy listening to?
Yeah, I do enjoy piano. Could listen to piano all day long. Just
Incredible.
And I really enjoy music actually, period. Just all different kind of genres of music. My children are teenagers, and they know lots and lots of different types of music and older music that they probably shouldn't know, because we listen to all kinds of things in our
Do they
household.
play an instrument?
They do not. My kids are both into sports, and
It's not too late to learn the violin.
That's right. We'll take you.
Yes. I wish they would. I think it's important. And I
Absolutely.
think the arts in the schools are extremely important. And
Absolutely.
it was something that we kind of lost there for a while. A lot of schools had to end up cutting back, and I'm glad to see that it's come back.
Absolutely. You know, that's actually one of the gaps that we're serving. One of the things that happened during COVID is the orchestra and band had to go online. And there's a little bit of, there's this period of educational, an educational gap that we're actually looking to fill. So right now, the 8th and 9th graders in particular had to start their musical instruments on Zoom, which doesn't necessarily sound like a recipe for success, but I'm really glad they pushed through it. Now we get to work with those kids and maybe do some remedial work and get them going where they should be. So as we output into the different colleges around the country, hopefully we'll have compensated for some of that gap there.
Eric, did you get to the symphony this past May when it came to the Kane Arts Center? Kane Center for the Arts?
You know, I was not able to make it to the Kane Center of the Arts, but we did get to go to, in the youth orchestra, our brass ensemble got to play up at Bailey Road Park when the symphony came up for July 4th. End of June, for the fireworks show up there. And we actually got to perform before the symphony, and I did get to enjoy them then. It was incredible.
One of my all-time favorite groups, and I mentioned Fleetwood Mac and Rolling Stones, and yes, I like those too. But my all-time favorite group is Chicago, because I just love the big brass. And the greatest concert I've ever attended in my life was going and listening to Chicago, backed up by the Charlotte Symphony. If you can imagine, you got Chicago, you got all the brass, and behind them is the Charlotte Symphony.
What a combo.
Oh, Eric, that just blew me away, and I'm still shaking about that.
It's incredible.
Have you been to any of the performances at the Kane?
Not yet. I'm looking forward to soon, though.
Do you think that we might see the Cornelius Youth Orchestra at the Kane Center for the Arts?
We would absolutely love that, and we're totally open to talking about that.
Bill, make sure you get Justin Dion, put him on the spot, and we need to have the Cornelius Youth Orchestra booked into the Kane Center for the Arts.
I'd love to have them at FeedNC too, if by chance they'd ever like to sing. Because a lot of, our children don't necessarily know that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So it would be really neat if they could see other kids
That's
doing
actually
something.
one of the things that we do. We try to get our kids out in the community and performing at different local places. And so we would love to have that. That would be incredible.
Great.
Yeah.
We've got about 35 seconds before we go to break. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that? Is there a website?
Google us, Cornelius Youth Orchestras. That's going to be the best way to reach us out. and you can find out all the information there. We are still registering for this season. In addition, you can also find all of our concerts right there online on our website. You can get tickets there. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the whole social gambit. We're all there.
8 seconds from break, Bill. Please come back and join us on WSIC Town Talk. We almost got caught there because I didn't hear a 60 or a 30. I was just too engrossed in the conversation going on. Favorite concert, totally off the record. Favorite concert.
Oh my gosh. It's probably Fleetwood Mac, I would say.
Oh yeah. Okay.
A lot of that kind of
And the
era.
whole band was Christine McVie and
Yeah,
also Lindsey
yeah.
Buckingham, because he's been in and out. Now he's out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, the lineup. So this was probably the when they came about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Okay, Eric.
I come from a classical background, so the San Francisco Symphony, where I grew up, going to various concerts from a young age there. Some of my earliest memories watching performances. I mean, I couldn't replace that for sure.
And I got to tell you, I've gotten older, and so now I'm into Bocelli as well. So hearing Andre come out, and which I never really thought I would be a Bocelli fan. And the first time my girlfriend invited me, I was going, I don't really want to go to that. And then I listened. I was just blown away.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he did. Chamber of Commerce. Today we had a ribbon cutting at U.S. Bank, and that was a fantastic outing, welcoming a new bank. And Bill, I was listening this morning to the word of the day, so see if I got this right. U.S. Bank's expansion into Lake Norman is a real harbinger into the healthy business growth of our dynamic region. I hope I did that one well. Harbinger was the word of the day. So, again, it was a fantastic experience. Anytime you welcome a business into our community, but recognizing a bank that's going to be injecting capital back into our small business community is really, really good. We're going to talk about some other things related to your particular organizations. Leadership Lake Norman cranks out tomorrow. It's going to be our first day. Chamber of Commerce. Leadership Lake Norman is taking off. And then we've got Junior Leadership Lake Norman that is going to be taking place. And we've got the juniors I think it's October 5th is going to be their retreat. Bill, we've got about 20 seconds before we go from our digital audience. And those of you joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, thank you for staying with us on Town Talk and listening to us chat a little bit about our experiences with concerts and Chamber of Commerce activities. Okay, and how far are we from coming back on live? Okay, 10 seconds. All right.
Your host, Lake Norman Chamber President Bill Russell on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
And welcome back to Town Talk. I'm your host, Bill Russell, President of Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. I have Eric Boruff. He's the music director and president of the board of directors for the Cornelius Youth Orchestra. And Lara Ingram, who is the executive director of FeedNC. And we have Daniel on the line. Daniel, I think you have a question for Eric.
Yes, Bill, it's good to hear you. I was looking at my iPad and saw you WSIC Town Talk on, and I got a quick question for Eric.
Go for it.
Is the orchestra still going to be at Sound of the Highlands on September 30th?
That is a fantastic question, and thank you so much for bringing it up. A week from Saturday, we are having our season kickoff fundraiser gala, the Sound of the Highlands. We're going to be partnering with Rural Hill to put on that event, and we will be performing live for all of the patrons who join us this evening. You can go to our website, Google us, Cornelius Youth Orchestras, and you can get your tickets there.
Bill on the boards told me it was Daniel. This is Commissioner Dan Boone, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Were you being incognito, Daniel? You about threw me, but I heard that voice. I'm going like, that's not Daniel, that's Dan.
Thank you for the plug, Dan.
Apologize. I'm definitely not
it's me. Dan, we had a new business. we had a new business opening up today, U.S. Bank in Huntersville. It's got to make you excited to see a new business. And then we recognized Jason Colvin earlier in the show. I don't know if you joined us where we talked about the two state championship teams. Question, you were the one that kind of encouraged Jason to come to the town board, and he talked about the needs of having more fields. Talk a little bit about what the town's going to be doing to facilitate maybe getting more resources together for our recreational uses.
Well, Bill, I wouldn't expect to answer a question like that. Bailey Road, the county owns that, and the town of Huntersville runs the parks there through our Park and Recs department. But I would like to see the county and the town remaster that extra 100 to 200 acres and bring in a really Class A softball, Little League baseball facility where they have 4 satellite fields and 1 championship field, because the people in Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davison, if they want to play in any big tournaments, they got to go to Wilson, North Carolina. And Wilson's a great town, but, you know, if you're not playing baseball, you're just eating barbecue.
Yeah.
And I think we can add a lot more to there. But sports is where it's at, and I'm glad that Jason brought his little leaguers up there to be recognized.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for encouraging Jason to bring that, because sometimes you go to a town board meeting and it can get contentious, and you've got these public hearings and things. And when you bring and you put 60 kids or whatever was in the room the other night, I guess it was 35, 40 kids in the room, it just changes the whole tenure of the room, didn't it?
Well, we've all been to those weddings where the one party didn't like the other party. That's what the town hall board meeting started like. And then these kids come in, and this is what Huntersville's all about. I mean, the skies opened up. I was so proud of those folks. And then they left, and we went into our usual business.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for the question to Eric.
Okay, Eric, I'll see you Saturday at the 30th.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Dan.
Lara, we're going to kick it back to you real quickly. How do you get the volunteers that you do have at FeedNC? How do you get them?
A lot of it is by word of mouth. You know, somebody comes in and has a really good experience, and then they invite their neighbors or their church members to come back with them. We also have a lot of great youth, teenagers. A lot of teenagers in our community do give back regularly. They have hours that they want to do for school and to achieve their goals. So we have great teenagers in the building all the time. And then we also do have really wonderful corporate groups who come out every day. We've had almost every day since we moved, we've had a different corporate group in the building. And so they might just spend one day. It's a give back kind of day. They'll spend one day with us. But then a different department, we'll have a different department from Lowe's corporate come out often, or a train. Ingersoll Rand, lots of wonderful businesses in our community that send people regularly. So that's typically how we find people, and we do have it on the website so that it's easy to find if somebody's out there trying to find a place to volunteer.
Eric, same question to you, but I tell you, when you said that you have some of the people from the Charlotte Symphony working with the kids, but where do you get your volunteers?
You know, that's a great question. A lot of our volunteers are primarily parents that we ask to get involved, but increasingly in the last 6 months or so, we've seen some partnerships with Kiwanis as well as Rotary and a couple other community organizations where we do have some volunteers coming in and helping us out with different endeavors that we have, whether it be grants or putting on different concerts. We need ushers that can help us out with that. I think the Boy Scouts, the local troop, helped us out there. So we're very happy to have that help from them.
Eric, how long have you been president of the board?
I joined the board in December of 2018 and right at the turn of the new year, so January of 2019. I assume both roles at the same time.
What is your vision, or what is the board's vision for the Cornelius Youth Orchestra?
You know, that's a great question. One of the things that we'd like to do is we'd like to radically scale our reach and how our the demographic that we serve. So initially, like I said, we mainly serve middle schoolers. Now we're serving elementary all the way to high school. And I did speak briefly about our auditioned ensembles that are for high-end, really motivated kids. But I would be remiss if I did not mention that we have a whole, and it's actually, there's more programming now on the educational side of things, but there's a whole branch of our organization is serving kids that have no experience whatsoever. Come see us if you do not have any experience, day one on your instrument, and come learn from somebody who graduated from Juilliard.
I'm going to ask you, I feel good. Tell me one really good story that you've got of maybe a child that got in there that, just blew you away, or you go like, I am so glad that I'm working with this organization.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you two, just
Okay.
because. The first one, we started a new beginner program just last year, and the trumpet class, specific to trumpets, the principal trumpet of the Charlotte Symphony comes up and works with that, Alex Wilborn, big credit to him. A student that had never played the trumpet before, by the end of that semester was the principal trumpet in their middle school. The second is our principal horn in the symphony itself, our youth orchestra, also got to perform with Upper Carolina over the summer because of the connection there with our faculty. And so going from playing in a youth ensemble to playing professionally, we're happy to facilitate all of that. We're so happy to serve our community in that way.
Laura, again, I've served on a lot of different boards. I'm in the Kiwanis Club. I'm in the Rotary Club. I've been on the board of Habitat, been on the board of United Way, Ada Jenkins Center. And when you're on like the Habitat board and you see a family, sometimes it's a single parent family that are able to own their first home. And watch them, the smile they have on their faces, they have the keys in their hand, the kids on their, right beside them. It just makes you feel so good. Is there one story that just comes to mind with you, a family you helped or an individual you helped at Feed North Carolina?
Yeah, I might have two too, but I'll be quick.
Sure, no, go ahead.
One of my favorites was one afternoon. It was about 4 o'clock. And by 4 o'clock, most of our food is gone. We sort of go through a lot of food a day. And we had a single dad who walked in the front door, and it was his daughter's birthday. And he just said, I don't have a cake. I don't have cupcakes. I'm responsible for this. And unbelievably, there is the only cake sitting there on the shelf with her name on it. Literally said happy birthday to his daughter. So we don't forget things like that, that clearly was bigger than any of us, standing in that building that day. And then we also have a graduate of our culinary program, graduated, had never been employed, and has now been employed at Davidson College in their food services for 3 years. She's had 2 promotions, doing incredibly well, has health benefits. So every time we see a person who, gets back on their feet, truly has a good job, they will no longer need our services, which she doesn't.
As the president of the Chamber of Commerce, I carry out the wishes of my board of directors. So it's not my vision, it's the board's vision. But we all have, as executive directors, as presidents of the chambers, president of a board, where we want to see our organization go. What is your vision as the executive director of FeedNC?
Yeah, we'd like to continue to do more. We strive every day to do more, serve more people, meet more needs. Specifically, with the workforce development program, we'd like to double and triple the size of the number of students that we have in our program, for sure. Again, the more people that graduate, the more people who are gainfully employed in our community. And then one of my favorite aspects of FeedNC is that people come together around food. If you think about every holiday you've ever had, every family event, people come together around a table. And so we feel like we can be a big part of that in our community, bringing different kinds of people together. Those relationships happen beautifully and organically in our building every day. So I hope that the vision is that we continue to bring different kinds of people together.
We've only got a couple of minutes. What can the community do to support FeedNC?
We absolutely need volunteers. Also appreciate anything that anyone can eat and can be delivered to us Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And we do always need financial support as well. It's a substantial sized operation at this point to meet the needs of the community.
And the best source of information, website,
Yes.
is
feednc.org.
feednc.org. And Eric, what can the community do to support what the Cornelius Youth Orchestra is doing?
3 things. First, come to a concert.
Oh, yes.
Come to our concert. Enjoy what we have to offer. Enjoy the fantastic talent of our kids and see them at doing what they do best. The second thing, we do need volunteer help as well. It seems like that's you hear the nonprofits say that a lot, but we do need some volunteers. And so if you would like to reach out and help us out in that regard, contact us. Go to our website. You can Google us, Cornelius Youth Orchestra, find our phone number and our email address there. You can reach out. We also do need financial support. Feel free to reach out on our website as well for that.
Eric, I have not been to a performance of the Cornelius Youth
Consider
Orchestra.
yourself invited.
I am absolutely going to be there if you'll make sure that I get the schedule. And
Absolutely.
I can't thank you enough, Lara, for what you do out there to make our community a great place to work and live throughout our region. Thank both of you. It's just a I really appreciate what you're doing out there for our community.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having us
you.
on.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. If it's Wednesday afternoon, we're talking about our towns on Town Talk, WSIC. I'm Bill Russell, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us.